right, good morning, everyone. I'm Mary Beth. Today, I'm going to walk you through a demo of the Materio basics and just understanding kind of the system's capabilities, what it can help you do. And what that's going to be is really organizing larger projects. So if you're a team who's working on 2,000, 3,000 square foot projects or multiple rooms with all of the finishes. This is going to be an amazing system to help you keep organized, give your team one place to go, and really just give you an automatic framework for how you can set up a project, how you can run a project, and give you a source of truth and really a sense of ease and comfort knowing that everything is there and it's not going to get lost. So I'm going to dive into some of the basics. If you've never seen Materio before, this might be a little bit new to you, but if you're here, you've probably at least explored it somewhat. So I'm excited to show you more. Now, if you have questions as I'm going through it, drop them in the chat and we will try to get to them as we go. But for now, we're just going to dive in. So, all right, if you look at Materio, I'm in a project right now. This is a newer project. I have uploaded some documentation here. I have a floor plan. I have an elevation. I've created a concept board here. And all of that is possible, in Materio. You're going to be uploading drawings. We're not a drawing system, but you're going to be uploading architectural drawings or drawings that your team has drafted. And so we have a combination of both of those within our customer base. So you're going to upload that here. And then this is also a way for you to get organized and track versions of those floor plans. So you'll notice on this one, it says that I have 3 versions. So as you get updated versions, you're going to replace those here. And of course, you can always restore if needed. So this is going to eliminate the need to have version control in Dropbox where things are getting lost. You can upload them here, and that way your team knows this is where they're supposed to go to look at it. Now, separately, I want to always encourage you to rename these floor plans. And then also you'll notice this one is a little bit grayed out, has an eye with a line through it. That means it's hidden from my clients. So you do have the ability to hide some of these pages from your clients, but your team and your external collaborators on the project will be able to see those. So it gives you a lot of flexibility on what you do and don't present to your clients. Like this one, I have some before photos, and I may not want to show that to my client. This is really just more for documentation for me. And so that is the way this works. Now down here, you can create boards, create stacks, and upload floor plans. A stack is just 2 pages together, kind of creating a folder, as many pages as you like, but this just gives you a way to organize and consolidate when you're working on really large projects and you sort of want to break those out. So that's sort of the basic fundamentals of the system and how you can organize these pages accordingly. So now I'm going to look into marking this floor plan and starting my scope of work. Now, the really cool thing is that I can outline my scope of work on the left, and then I have my floor plan or visual on the right, and it's all going to connect. And that's going to help me understand what am I missing, what needs to go into this project, and making sure that I'm just not losing anything. So I'm going to use our scope starter. This gives you some defaults, and this is a pretty large project. We're doing an entire house and an addition. I'm not going to add everything in today, but we do have these defaults here for you. And you can also come in and customize names for your spaces and add them here. Now, what the defaults are going to do is give you a place to add in selections, and we'll get there in just a minute. First, I want to consider if I want to set up a budget for my locations. Now, oftentimes our design teams that are using the system love to do this because they work from a location perspective. And so I can go in and set a budget for these rooms. This is not mandatory. This is optional. You can set a total project budget at the bottom here, which is actually going to be, you're going to be asked to do that when you create the project at the beginning. And I'm going to increase this budget here. So you can always adjust that in any of the places where it asks you for budget. All right, let's throw in some numbers here. And this is just to create a guideline for me. Now I'm going to outline the categories of work or the types of services that I'm going to be offering. So I'm going to be offering design services. I want to make sure that's turned on. And then for this project, I'm doing, electrical, plumbing. I'm doing the design work, so on the finishes. So I'm going to be selecting those. Now this is where it's handy to have those defaults because Materio is going to say, hey, you had a kitchen. And so you're probably going to have a kitchen sink, prep sink, faucet, etc. So it's going to give you suggestions there. And I'm going to also select some tile. And again, it's going to suggest some options for me. Now you can always customize and add these or change these later. But again, it's just a great place to get started. So now I'm going to decide how I want to set up the fee structure for this project. And the reason we do this per project and not an organization-wide setting is because sometimes we hear that that's flexible and that you're doing different types of fees or different markups for different clients, and that's totally fine. So we have the project fee, which is the way for you to put a project level fee. This is often used by design build firms or firms that are doing sort of a cost plus model or time and materials where they've got the scope and then they have a percentage. So I might do 20% there. Um, and that would just put that on the bottom of my project, and that's going to be visible to your client. Now, including a markup is really baking the markup into each item so that your client doesn't see this. This is often used by a hard cost or fixed fee firm or designers who are marking up products that are wholesale and are wanting to go ahead and just bake that in at a minimum so that you don't forget it. Again, you can customize this per item or category later, so if you need to adjust things, you can. And then are you buying wholesale or are you collecting tax? Yes, I am buying wholesale and I'm collecting tax on these items. So I'm going to go ahead and create my outline. So now I've got my project set up financially. I've gotten a good outline started and you'll see that I've got a pretty good list of scope of work here. So the next thing you're going to do is make sure that you've got your category set up and your items, but we're going to dive right into scope because we only got 30 minutes today and I want to kind of dig in. Now, for design services, this is the opportunity for you to spell out what your fee structure is going to be. So maybe I'm doing my design fee, and that's actually a flat amount. Let's say I'm doing 25,000. I'm going to remove my markup and tax on this one. That's one way to demonstrate your design fee. That also makes it really easy to invoice for that design fee in percentages, because in Materio, you can invoice percentages of items. So that's one way to do it. Another way would just be to put design hours. So if you wanted to give your client an estimated amount of hours that we're going to be on this project, let's say we're estimating $150 per hour, and we're going to estimate 100 hours um, for all of my clients. So I can click the units there, click hours, and then you'll see I have that estimate. Now, of course, you can always go over that, but if you're trying to be really transparent with your client about what's going to go into this project and what it's going to take, that is a great way to do it. All right, so now we're going to go into how you can add items and how those connect to the floor plans. So you'll see over here in my electrical category, I'm going to add in location. So anywhere that I might want to add in lights for this project, I'm going to go ahead and select those. For now, we'll start with a few. So I have my category and then I have my locations under that. This is important because once you get into, selections and all of that, it keeps it really organized. And then I'm going to just add items. So I'm going to do a chandelier here, but actually I'm going to drag this one. Um, we'll drag this one down into the living room. So that was generated by my scope starter. And I'm going to go ahead and just estimate $1,500 cost. I'm going to add in some cost components here. I'm going to add shipping at $150. Now you can customize these markup and tax on each cost component. So you may decide that on shipping, you always charge 10% markup, but you never charge tax on it. You can always come in and edit your defaults here, and you can do that to new items that you create or all existing items. Now, the reason that it's really helpful to do this at the beginning is that if you have, let's say, a design assistant or someone who's helping you out that maybe isn't familiar with the way that you want to mark things up, you can do this by default throughout the project. And then when they go to start sourcing things, all of these sort of default fee structures are going to carry over to those selections. So that's really important. Now I'm going to update all existing items here, but that means I am going to have to adjust those two design services items really quick. All right, so there we go. I have now set the markups that I want on each item. And now you can see that I have a chandelier here. I've got my cost, I've got my shipping. If you want to add labor to each item, let's say your electrician charges 150 per fixture, you can always add in labor right there. So I've got a great idea of what the chandelier is going to cost. And now I'm going to make sure that everyone on my team and my client knows where it's going. So we have a few different markers. We're going to start with a pin marker. So let's say that this chandelier is going right in the middle of this room here. I'm going to add it with the pin marker. That's going to let me know that I now have a chandelier estimated here and we're ready to fill in some options. Separately, if we go into marking things like the toilets, we can just, again, use that point marker. Materio is going to quantify it for me. And then I can just quickly go in and mark all of the items that I need and quickly put in maybe an estimate of what that is going to cost me. So really quickly, I get an idea of what it's going to take to really do this project and all of the items that I really need to go into this. So I'm going to remove the tub from this one. I am going to have a shower system, so I'll mark it over here. Um, all right, so really quickly, I'm seeing what's going into this bathroom. I've got these markers on the floor plan, and now I can really start to understand what items I need to source. I'm also going to go ahead and estimate the bathroom floor tile here. I think this is one of the most convenient and coolest parts of the system is really doing these takeoffs so easily, just knowing exactly what the square footage is going to be on something. Let's go ahead and also do the shower walls. We're going to use the linear tool here. So we're going to do our lines, and then we're going to hit enter, and then we're going to do the height of the ceiling and then the waist. So there we go. We've gotten really quickly estimates on how much floor tile, how much wall tile. We can do the shower floor too. Super easy. Throw that in, and then we will know really quickly what it's going to take, what we need to source for these locations and for these rooms. All right, so we have a few estimates in here. Now, when we head over to our selections workspace, this is going to be where you start to see the designs come together. And this is really an automated checklist of everything that needs to be in the project. You'll notice that in this bathroom, we've already started to estimate some things out. We've got, 20% of our budget allocated, and you can see that we have numbers here. They're going to tell us and our team what our budget is for shopping for this item. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to pull from my library. We have the ability to um, build out a design library. This is going to be across your organization. You can use this across projects, and this is going to be all team members sort of pulling into this library. And then I'm going to also, let's do the floor tile for this one. We'll do this marble. We're going to pull in a few items here so that you can see really what this looks like. Um, when you're pulling product in. And let's pull a faucet in, this one, sink, maybe this one, maybe we'll pull in a toilet. So you'll see as you start to build out product here, you really get a good sense of what this room is going to look like. Now you can also separately create a board with this and show that to your client. But the really cool thing about Materio is it's going to walk you through that process. It's going to take you through the framework. So once you start to put product options in, and you can do multiple options for each one if you want to give your client the level of autonomy of making decisions. But this is going to allow you to just get ready to send those to your client and get approval so that you can move forward with ordering. So I'm going to hit send. I already have a client on this project. You can see them up here at the top right. And then I'm going to send these over to the client. What this is going to do is fire off an email to them. It's going to move them out of this open workspace and move it into awaiting approval. So now you know your client has gotten an email. They're going to get an invite. They're going to come right here into the system, in their client portal, and they're going to be able to make approvals and decisions here. The other cool thing is they can come in and they can actually have conversations with you. Of course, in their view, they're not going to see all this information, but they can come in and discuss this with you. You can also discuss this as a team if you want to switch to a team discussion and have internal conversations about product choices or ordering or questions or design decisions if you're the head designer. All of that is going to be able to be done right here. So I can go in and you can also approve this as a firm. So if you're already trying to play catch up with a project that you've got, you can always come in and just approve this selection. For the sake of this demo, I'm going to go in and just approve a few things so that we can move through the process. Now, what you'll also notice here is that as your client's making approval or as you're making approval, either way, you're going to get these approved selections in this room at the bottom. That's going to provide some great context to what we've already made choices about and what is outstanding. So you do get that context as you're making those decisions, which I think is really helpful. So I'm going to go ahead and approve that one. So now we have 6 confirmed selections and they have all moved over to this confirmed workspace. And here's where it gets even more exciting. Now you can actually manage where this is at. Have we ordered it? Is it paid for? All of that's going to be really easily visible right here. You can view this table in a table view as well. So you can really easily see this in a nice clean format with more information as well as the statuses. Now, As we move forward with purchasing and invoicing, I'm going to walk you through sort of what that looks like. And I think most of the time, firms are going to be, invoicing. You're going to be invoicing for that product before you decide to place the order. So we'll go that workflow first, and then we can always talk about it. Before we leave this space, though, I did want to say that you could always come in and export these selections. So whether it's in any of these workflows, let's say you've got it in open and you're actually trying to get a quote for something, you can always come in, export. You can filter by, a certain vendor, and you can select that vendor, and you can say, okay, these are things that need selection or waiting approval. That might be a moment where you want to fire that off to a vendor and get a quote for it. A lot of things are possible with this export. So if you have any specific questions about how you can use that, how you can use it to hand it off, how you can use it off, how you can use it to sort of get approval when you put things at the job site, all of that's possible. Just let us know. We'd be happy to help. All right, so we're going to move over to the finances. Now, this is going to be an overview of your project, where things are at. You are going to get this itemized view as the project evolves. You'll see that things are changing. You'll see where your gross profit actually is versus where it was planned. So this is a great overview of sort of just where the project is at. Now, this is going to be visible for the firm. Usually, this is not visible for the client unless you're running a fully transparent model. But I'm going to head over to billing, and this is the opportunity for me to collect payment on my project and to collect payment on products in the system. Now, of course, in the billing center here, you'll see that we have a Stripe integration. This makes getting paid to the system really easy. It also allows you to really track those payments automatically without having to do any manual work, but you can also process payments outside of Materio and just track those here as well. So I'm going to come in, and first what I'm going to do is actually collect a retainer. Oftentimes, design firms are going to be collecting a design retainer or some retainer at the beginning of the project in order to ensure that they're covered as they get started with the work. So I can always do that here. And I can just put, 25,000 on that. So I'm going to send that over to my client. And then for the sake of this demo, I'm just going to mark this as paid. Let's just say that they wrote me a check and I wanted to put, a reference number or memo. If they wrote you a check, it's great to send them a payment confirmation. Just let them know that you've gotten that and that it's been applied to their account, but you don't have to. You can always uncheck that. So I'm going to send that over, and now that design retainer is paid, and you'll notice in the project balances here, I have $25,000 of design retainer available. So just know that that is there if you would like to use it. So what I'm going to do now is actually come in and collect an invoice. And we're going to call this bathroom deposit. So you could do this via location, you could do this, via category of work, anything you want. You can also filter down here by confirmed status. You'll notice that anything in my scope of work, though, is going to show up here. So anything with a dollar amount in my scope of work is going to show up here, and I'm going to be able to I'm going to be able to invoice for that. So let's say I wanted to invoice for a percentage of my design fee, and I also wanted to invoice for all of the approved product. I could do that. I'm going to hit next. And in this case, I'm just going to collect 50% of all of this. You can come in and type very specific numbers if you want to. So if you wanted to collect 100% of your design fee, you could. You could also adjust the tax amounts that you're collecting as well. But I'm going to go ahead and just collect 50 and add this to the invoice. Now you'll notice that the items with pictures are showing up here because those are approved. And then also I wanted to call out that you can collect via credit card, ACH, or wire transfer. And the default here is that the client is going to cover these fees, but you can always adjust that if you'd like to cover them as well. So I'm going to go ahead and send this over. And once I do that, again, for the sake of this demo, I'm going to just mark that as paid. You'll also notice that we have a QuickBooks column right here, and that's because Materio has a QuickBooks Online integration. So as you send invoices, as you track purchase orders, as pay POs and vendor payments, all that, it's going to go sync through Materio and go over to your QuickBooks account. So that's going to make it really easy if you're using an accountant, or if you have an accountant on your team that is keeping up with that. It's going to push all that into QuickBooks super easy. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm actually going to use some payment from my retainer. Now the balance is 41,000, so I may not want to use all of it. Let's just say I apply 10,000 from the retainer, and then I want to request the balance from my client. I can do that. And then I'm going to go ahead and just apply. We'll just say that we received a payment. Let's say we received it via ACH. Now, again, if you're doing this through Stripe, it's all going to be automatic. But if for some reason you're doing this manually, you're doing it through bank accounts or QuickBooks or something separate, you can always just come in and do that manually. So now those are marked as paid. So if I head back over to my selections workspace, you're going to see that now all of these items are labeled as partially paid because we collected 50% on them. For me, that's enough to get started with ordering. So I'm going to go ahead and move forward with that. Now, you'll notice right now that the purchase orders is going to be at the top tab here of your selections workspace. You might see that I have a special tab right here called orders. That's because that is in testing on our internal accounts, and we will launch that soon. But right now, you're going to head over to the purchase orders tab, and you'll notice that the items I have in my project, if they have a vendor, are auto drafted into purchase orders. And that means Materio is noticing that they have a vendor and that maybe those vendors are even in common if there's more than one item with a certain vendor, and not just grouping them together and saying, hey, these have been approved by your client, so now they're ready to order. What I'm going to do here is actually record an order that I already placed. Let's say that I went to build.com, I placed this order. I'm going to go ahead and just go ahead and add in a receipt here as a sample, and then I'm going to record that order. When I do that, the receipt's going to come up. I can zoom in on it. I can take a look at the quantities and the price. If anything has changed from my original estimate, my original cost estimate, I can come in and edit that. So maybe this is actually was only, 1,200, and maybe this actually ended up being, 210. So I can update my cost here. This is not going to push the cost onto your client right now. This is simply going to update your cost, as an expense on this item. If you ended up paying tax or shipping, anything like that can be changed. And then I'm going to track a payment on this. And this is important because if you are connected to QuickBooks, recognizing the payment methods, this is going to auto reconcile in your banking feed in QuickBooks. And so this is important that you take this step to make sure that you have tracked that payment, and then you can confirm this purchase order. You'll also notice that there are a few different options here about putting ship dates on your timeline. If you have a timeline built out, that'll show up. And then also there's the default of updating these items to ordered, which usually is something that we want to do. There might be a case where you are doing a partial payment, but it's not officially ordered, in which case you might turn that off. But I'm going to confirm this. And now if I come back to my confirmed workspace, you'll see that these 3 items are ordered. So there you go. As you go through the order process, as you go through the invoicing process, all of those statuses are going to be automatically tracked and updated right here, which is just great for keeping things in order. So now let's say I get something, it's shipped, I got a shipping notification. I can come in, I can say that it has shipped. I can put in tracking information, note the carrier, put any notes here about where it's going or things I want to share with my team. And then if I have a timeline, or this will generate one for me, I can schedule it on my timeline there. So that is the way that you would keep track of where things are. And you can always come in and reference this. You can click on it. Your team can check in on this tracking information. We are hoping to automate this really soon, but right now you can come in and dig into these items as well. Now, I'm not going to get into the weeds today in this demo about how you can update the cost to push to your client, but that is how you can generally track through the system and really, really keep everything up to date. Now we're getting low on time here, so I just wanted to go over a few more things about the system. Of course, I wanted to note that we do have a Chrome extension, and this allows you to pull products in really easily. So let's say I wanted to clip this light. I can come add a Chrome extension to my browser, click the little Materio logo. It's going to pull in the pictures. It's going to pull in product names and SKUs, depending on the website. I can categorize this as electrical, and then we'll do sconces. I can move this over to the left if it's in my way. Let's say I wanted to put in some of the dimensions if it didn't pull it in, or edit the description, write internal notes. All of that is here and available for me. And then if I wanted to add any specifications, you can just right click the document and you'll see it says Materio attach file. So I'm going to do that. And amazingly, it just pulls that right into my product here, and it's going to save it to my library. So this is really, really great because when you go to hand this off to the electrician, all of that information is going to be there with that approved product. And if you go and use this on another product later on, it's also going to be there. So it's really cool that we can just pull that in really easily. So I'm going to save that to my library. I just wanted to show you that you can clip with Materio, and that is going to pull it into your library in a really, really easy way. All right, now I'm gonna quickly go over the timeline in the next few minutes, and we don't have any questions yet, so I think, yeah, I'm just gonna jump into this. So when you are building a timeline in Materio, we make it super easy to just start typing out things. You can also come in and build templates. So if I wanted to reset my timeline and use a template, I could do that. Let's say we're doing a full bath remodel, or maybe we're doing, actually, let's do a design template here. So we'll pull this in. You can see that really quickly, I've got this template already built out. I've got client onboarding. I need to do my client intake, contracts, contract sign, retainer sent, etc. So I can add in these planned tasks. They're going to happen every single time on a project. And then I can go in and easily assign them to other people on my team, knowing that they're the ones who need to take care of this. You can use this to move your timeline around, and then all of these are built in dependencies here. So if I push the start date, all of this is going to get pushed if those dependencies are added in. So this makes it super easy to create these consistent planned timelines and knowing that your team is not going to miss anything. The other cool thing is that when this phase starts, these tasks are going to show up on your teammates' personal task list in their dashboard. So they're going to see, hey, it's time for me to, document those existing conditions or send over that contract. So this is a really, really helpful way to understand what's going on the project. And then as you have shipments coming in or other selections that are due, you can track all of those here as well. Now, one last thing is the activity feed. This is where you would send progress reports, add notes. You can also do this from our mobile app. So in our mobile app, you can track field notes. You can do multiple photos and notes, and then easily go in and prepare a report for your client by selecting a date range and generating this report. This is going to give you a way to customize notes and messages to them. It's going to show photos if you've added those in. It's just a really easy way to send over a report, do this weekly, let them know what's going on. You can also share this with any collaborator on your project. So if it's a GC that you've got outside the system, team members, if you're the project manager and you're wanting to report up, all of that is possible with this progress report. Now, just in general, as you are on the project, if you're inviting your team, they will be getting daily briefings if they're on this project with just activity that's happened on the project. We did not cover sharing links or, in depth about commenting or anything like that, which is a huge bonus to the system. I guess I have a few minutes, so I could cover that. But commenting, let's talk about commenting. I think communication is really, really important, and it's a great place to do this with your client and with your team. So there are a few times and moments that you might want to communicate with your client or with your team. One of those is often going to be on the floor plan. That's going to be the easiest way to sort of make a judgment call about, you're talking about something very specifically and you want to suggest that it is moved. So maybe you're working with a junior designer, but they're actually your draftsman. So they're doing all the drafting work for you, and you actually want them to change something. You could mention them and you could say, make this 30-inch, I don't think we have room. So you can kind of make notes here about changes that you want to see happen on the plan. And you can also do this back and forth with your client, especially if they're very involved in the layout of the project. So that's really useful place. Now, the other thing you can do is come in and on individual items here, you can scroll down and you'll see that there's a client discussion and a team discussion. So this is really handy if you have questions, especially if you are one of the design team members and you're communicating up, or you want to ask questions about what they're looking for maybe in this product, you can do that here. This is also a great place for clients to come in and ask specific questions about scope of work if they're not sure, maybe why you estimated something a certain way or why we're including this or not. So it gives them a great way to communicate very directly. And then last, you can communicate on selections or products. So if you actually click the product, I think we went over this before, but you can discuss this with your team, your client, especially once it's in the ordering phase. If you go to internal team discussions, it's a great way to put notes and add in decisions here. So there's a lot we didn't cover today. We didn't go over time tracking, which is up here at the top. You can explore that, check out some different videos on that. We didn't go in depth on sending purchase orders to vendors, but that is possible in the system. But I think we covered a lot, and I'm excited to see what you think about Materio and how you use it to advance your team and get organized. If you have any questions for us, you can always reach out at hello@materio.co. And if you're in a free trial or if you're a customer, you can always come to the menu over here and hit help. And this is going to bring up our team where you can live chat us from 9 to 5. So, really excited to have you in the system. Again, reach out if you need anything and have a great day.